Yeah, welcome back to the Flat Tire, episode 1, season 3, here at Moto Mike shop, talking about things and stuff. Brandon has a helmet on, I have a helmet on, Mike Man, but not actually Mike Man, but Mike McGuire has a helmet on, and we're going to talk about stuff and things.
Let's go.
Let's do it.
Let's get to it.
Okay, so I forgot how that is recording. I forgot how we usually start the podcast because we haven't done this since
been a while.
last year. Welcome to the Flat Tire, episode 1, season 3. Today we are at Moto Mike, which is Mike Man's shop here in Nepean, Ottawa, Ontario. I'm one of the hosts, Keishan Sondegar, and beside me is Brandon.
I'm Brandon.
Amazing introduction by Brandon. And across sitting with us is Mike Mann, the owner of this awesome shop that we're in. And I thought Brandon was going to do a clap, but that's good.
I was just showing off the area that we're in currently.
Beautiful shop.
That's
Thank
fair.
you guys for coming.
No problem.
Appreciate
Thanks for hosting us. Do you want to introduce yourself to our guests, or to our listeners?
Yeah, for sure. So my name's Mike McGuire. I own Moto Mike Canada Inc. here in Ottawa. I'm a motorsports...
Wait, hold on. Your name's not Mike Man?
No.
Sorry, man.
Right?
I thought... okay, anyway, sorry.
That's fine.
Do we want to rerun the
No, it's too good.
Are you sure? Because we're pretty deep
No, it
into the
trips a
recording.
lot of
No,
people up.
It's fine. It's fine.
It's because on Facebook it's a different last name because reasons.
Okay, sorry. So, Mike McGuire. Alright, sorry, no, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's okay.
Alright, yeah, go ahead.
Are you gonna be okay?
Yeah, I'm good. Hey, we're good.
Where was it?
So we got past the first name.
Okay. Are we past it? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, this is my store. I don't even know what to say about it at all.
Okay. Like, what is it? What do you do? Like, what is Moto Mike? What? Yeah.
So we opened a retail store here about a year ago after selling parts online for about 5 years before that. So basically it started, I was buying out dealerships if they're closing or changing brands, that kind of thing, and had excess parts and just flipping them online, buying them in bulk and selling them online. And as we're going through it, we're getting a lot of different aftermarket parts and accessories, helmets, that kind of thing. And we had the idea pre-COVID to open a retail store, me and my wife Danielle. And we delayed that for a little bit just because of everything going on, and retail was getting closed and decimated. But last year we thought it was a great idea to open because things seemed like they were starting to open up a little bit. So we found this space. So in the front here, it's about around 1,000 square feet of showroom space with all of our helmets and gear and that kind of thing. But primarily we sell motorcycle parts, ATV parts, snowmobile, a little bit of marine stuff in the warehouse in the back. So there's another 2,500 square feet of warehouse in the back here, and that's full of all of our the parts that we have listed on our website and on eBay. So there's about I think about 12,000 listings currently of different parts, and then through our suppliers we have another like hundreds of thousands of parts that we can order in. Generally everything we order comes overnight out of the big catalogs, and that's we focus mainly on motorcycle stuff. That's my passion, is motorcycles, and but I don't like, we have a sport bike here. I'm not just a sport bike guy. I like anything basically two wheels. I ride dirt bikes too, and I have friends and associates that have everything from little Honda Groms and that kind of thing, all the way up to like big bagger Harleys and that kind of stuff. So, and we supply parts and accessories, clothing, gear, all that kind of stuff for basically all of that community, as well as the racing community too. So I deal with certain suppliers that have that just sell race parts. So there's companies down in the States and in Canada and stuff. So we try to cater to those people too, because we go out, we race these bikes, and yeah, try to have something for everybody in the two-wheel community.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So when you say you're buying out old dealerships, or they're changing brands, does that mean you have a lot of stock of like really old stuff that would be hard to find for most people?
Yeah, exactly. And that's where it really started, was looking out for it, because I like vintage stuff too. So even though this is like a modern sport bike, I tried to give it a little bit of a vintage feel to it. And same thing with my leathers and stuff. They're kind of like old school looking, because I like the vintage bikes. But
yeah, I could tell in the McGuire font.
Yeah, it's sort of like harkens back to like the 70s era kind of stuff. But yeah, so definitely that's one thing that I really enjoy getting is finding like stockpiles of new old stock OEM parts. We bought out, I think, 12 dealerships at this point that either closed or were. So when a dealership buys their inventory of parts, they own that. It's not like if you go into a dealer, they have all their units on the floor or whatever. They don't necessarily own those. Mm-hmm. They're floor planned, which is essentially a financing. But the parts department, they own all of the parts in there. So if a dealer goes, well, we're not going to sell Yamaha anymore, we're going to sell Kawasaki or something, they have to figure out what to do with those parts. Right. And usually parts departments are generally pretty small, right? So they need that space. So I try to find, we have some good contacts now where people send me leads or whatever, but try to find dealerships, especially that have been open since like the 60s, that have these kind of parts that people are looking for when they're restoring these bikes. And it's sort of like one of my favorite ones ever was we got a set of brand new gauges, so new in the box, Honda speedometer and tachometer for, I believe it was like a 73-ish CB350 that a guy was restoring in England. And
sick. Okay.
So we bought them locally and put them online, and I get an order to send these things to England. So it was like about this time of year, about November, and right like Boxing Day, I get an email back from the guy. He's like, so my wife surprised me. I was restoring this bike, and it was like the last thing. I couldn't find this set of gauges for the bike, and she bought them for me off your site for Christmas. And sent me like all kinds of pictures of the bike, and he did like a nut and bolt, like perfect restoration on this thing.
That's
so
cool.
She got him these like 0-mile clocks for it, which is awesome. And that's the kind of thing like there's a lot of these parts that just hang out in dusty dealerships or whatever and grow mold and get thrown out when they could go to somebody like that's trying to do a really nice restoration. So if I can find those things and get them out where people can actually use them and put them on a bike, that's I enjoy that. Yeah.
That's actually really cool that you do that versus the regular, like, here's the oil change products and stuff. You do cool, not really, I guess cool, unique, like vintage stuff. You like send them out to all these cool like custom builders who are trying to build like that 73 Honda. Was it 73, 74?
Something like that, yeah. Yeah, CB350 if I remember right.
Like you do other dealerships, but they don't have those cool niche products. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Plus you do have the newer stuff as well, like the new race suits and the gloves and all that, but then you see the gas tanks up top. Like this Honda gas tank, like can we buy that? Like, is that more like your private collection?
That's actually on the website right now. Okay. It's an XL175 tank. I believe it's 74, that one. Okay. And it's this one is like, it's mint inside. The paint's not the greatest and the whatever, but like it has that has a natural patina. So that's another thing people do lately is sort of they try to like take something new and make it look old.
Okay.
Because it's hard to find, let's say, a tank for this XL that has a good patina. If you find one, it's probably rotten inside. Okay. So we found a bunch of these older tanks and stuff that are pretty much mint inside. You don't have to coat them, and there's problems that you can run into when you coat a tank inside, depending what you use. But yeah, so yep, you can definitely, if somebody out there has a XL175 and needs an orange tank with black stripes on it.
There it is.
motomike.ca.
That's so cool. And you mentioned that you do have a race bike. It's a Kawasaki 400R or something. Or what exactly is this behind this?
Okay, so this is a 2018 Kawasaki Ninja 400. We race this. I race it, and then I have an identical bike that my friend Harvey races too. In the Canadian Superbike Series, so CSBK, and the class that they run the little bikes in is lightweight sport bike. So essentially this bike is 400cc parallel twin. It makes about 45 horsepower at the wheel and weighs 325 pounds soaking wet, full tank of gas.
So basically me.
Yeah. And
minus the 45 horsepower.
It's a really fun series. So that series is sort of being dominated right now by this 400 bike that makes up most of the grid right now. But there's guys out there that run really good on the Yamaha R3 as well. You can run a few different bikes. There was a guy running he was actually a really fast rider. He's turning pro now in the 600 class, but he was running a Honda 500, which is a little bit heavier and doesn't handle as well as these ones. But these are a good mix of power and handling, I think, for most of the tracks that we go to. But yeah, we've been running them I've ran the last 3 years, and Harvey's ran the last 2, and we're planning to run again in 2023 as well.
That's sweet. So what's the schedule like for bike racing? Do you go to the majority of the tracks that a lot of like like GT races go to, like FEL Motorsports and SPC racing series?
Yeah, some of the same tracks. So if you're familiar with car racing, some of the tracks, it sort of changes. It depends on what deals they have going with the different track owners and stuff. But the last few years, we've been running at Calabogie Motorsports Park. We've been running at Canadian Tyre Motorsports Park, or Mosport for most people. Yeah. That's sort of the 2 biggest ones around here. Mm-hmm. We also ran at Grand Bend, which was not my favorite track, but there's a lot of really fast local guys in that area. Mm-hmm. They also have, so the track at Grand Bend has a series called SOAR, SOAR, and they get really big turnout. So there's a lot of competition, and when we went there, it was like, the last couple of years I've been running at the front in this class, and I think I finished 8th or something like that in that race out of 16 to 19 entries. So not terrible, but I couldn't even see the guys in the front. Like, I was probably about to be lapped there.
So we don't know much about motorcycles. We're more 4 wheels than 2.
Yeah.
So like, what kind of, this is comparing two very different things, but like obviously Formula 1, Formula 2, Formula 3, those are all very like spec dependent or strict rules and restrictions. So what kind of restrictions can there be on bikes or the classes that you race in? Like, how do you like what are the rules to it?
Yeah, exactly. So it is a spec series.
Okay.
Essentially, they try to even out the field. So if you have different bikes have different power limits. So at the CSBK is a national series. There's some other series that run same bikes with similar rules, give or take. So for the CSBK series, we actually have to meet the horsepower limit, we actually have to run restrictors in the intake to bring the power down. Just because the Yamaha R3, it's a 300 cc motor versus a 400 in this. So they're trying to even out the speeds of the bikes, right? And I think they've done a pretty good job by how they limit the power for each bike. But essentially, when we go out, they bring a dyno to each of the events, and the top 5 guys or whatever it is for each session have to go and dyno to make sure that everybody's following the rules. So that's one thing is the horsepower limit for each class, and that's true of the bigger classes too. So for the pro and the amateur 600 and the pro and amateur superbike, they have different horsepower limits for those classes to even everything out. We also have, and same with the bigger classes, a spec tire that we have to run. So the last number of years it's been a Dunlop. They're changing to Bridgestone this year. And then we actually run a spec fuel as well.
Okay.
So depending what happens at the end of the race, sometimes they'll like take a sample out of the fuel. They dye the fuel, so they have a control, and they'll siphon some out of your tank and compare it with the control, just to make sure that everybody's playing on the same.
Right.
Same
So
fuel.
it's not just regular pump fuel.
For our class, it is. It's just a straight Shell 91 91, and with a dye in it.
Right.
But you've been around cars enough. You can smell when there's race gas, right?
Yeah.
So some guys have some motor work done, and they bumped up the compression, shave the heads, different pistons, whatever, and they have to run race fuel. So even if they make the horsepower limit, sometimes some of those guys are running a race fuel, taking the chance. Like, you can smell it when they go by, you know who it is. But they're playing the game where maybe they want to run that bike in different series where that's allowed, but to run it in CSBK, they're supposed to be a spec fuel, but they're not going to blow the bike up on that. So, but you could argue that if you looked at their power graph, like their dyno chart, they may be making that horsepower limit way earlier than somebody on an equivalent bike who has to run the 90, or who is following the rules running the 91. But they're taking the chance where at the end of the race, if they get siphoned, they're going to be disqualified from that session.
Like, instantly disqualified. Like, there's no contesting or anything like that. Okay.
No.
Interesting.
And most people are pretty good with. They know they're taking the chance, right? So if they get the boot from the official, they're, for the most part, they're not going to argue with it. And in our class, there's no big prize money, there's no big sponsors, there's no, some people get a little bit of help here and there, but there's no big prize money. It's more for fun, even though it is pretty strict with the rules.
Because at the end of the day, everyone's there to have fun. No one wants to be like, oh, you're cheating, this and that. So it makes sense to have a level playing field. That makes sense.
And the way that, like, I'm 41 and I still get to play with little bikes, which is great, because like in Moto America in the States, they have the same class, but there's an age limit.
Okay.
I can't remember what it is right now, 17, 18, something like that. Maybe it's more, whatever. But they basically created this class a number of years ago. It's sort of evolved over the years. They had a Honda 125 class. I don't know if you've ever seen like the little 125
like
four-stroke.
They're
like
super
they weigh like 200 pounds or something. They make 8 horsepower or whatever. But they started with that series years and years ago. And then it's evolved over the years for, like, the 250s came out, and then all the bike manufacturers started putting out 300s, and then so Kawasaki was the first one to go to a 400 cc motor. So they sort of created. At one point, it was just a Kawasaki spec 300. You had to have a 300 Kawasaki, and then they opened it up to the other manufacturers and changed the rules a bit to try to even it out for everybody.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
So what qualifies a big? Like, you call that a little bike? And to me, like, I don't know.
That's a pretty
like
big
that.
bike.
That looks like any other bike I would have seen on the street. So like, what qualifies, or what's the difference between a small and big, like, engine? Where's the line?
So it probably doesn't sound like a lot of difference, but so this is a 400cc motor. Standard traditional sport bike would start at 600 cc's.
Okay.
So 200cc difference, it's 50% difference, but
it's power to weight though.
Yeah. So the big difference is, first of all, these bikes are physically a little bit smaller than a 600. If you put them side by side, it'd be obvious. The Kawasaki 400 is essentially a commuter bike that they make for other markets that they bring here and put fancy bodywork on, so it looks like their sport bike lineup. Marketing, but it works. They sell a ton of these things. They're actually super fun to ride too. But the biggest difference is the horsepower. So these, like I said, they make about 45 horsepower. There's been guys that have tuned them up to like mid 60s, but that's like bonkers to get it out of it. But an entry level, like a standard 600cc sport bike is making 110. You can tune them 120 maybe horsepower kind of thing. And they don't weigh significantly more than that. So they might weigh another 80-ish pounds, but they're making 3-ish times the horsepower.
Yeah, the power to the weight is insane.
Yeah, so this is like a parallel twins with 2 cylinders side by side, and then the 600s are a inline 4-cylinder. And then the super bikes generally are also inline 4, but 1000 cc.
That's insane.
Do they make Boxers? Does BMW do Boxer engines?
They did. Their super bike now is an inline 4.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. And then like Ducati, there's not a lot of guys that race in Canada anyway. That race the like more exotic ones. There's a bunch of BMWs in the superbike class, or I mean there has been. There's not a lot of like Ducatis and stuff like that have different configurations of engines than that. It's pretty much mostly the best packaging for these things. Power, weight, handling is an inline 4.
Okay.
So.
I guess like weight distribution and stuff like that. Like when you throw it side to side, because you're like on your knees when you go around corners.
Yeah, I guess if you have a Boxer engine, that wouldn't be great to throw around.
No, like you drag the cases before anything else. Like they did have a Boxer Cup years ago, where it was just a BMW. I don't remember the model name anymore, but yeah, it was just the BMW Boxer.
That's crazy
bike, which was that's super cool bike.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like we're hanging off of these things. Like there's guys, I'm like more old school looking. If anybody's into bike racing, like there's sort of the newer era of riding style where you're completely like rolling yourself off of the bike instead of just leaning, and you're dragging elbows and shoulders and whatever as you're going around the corner.
Yeah, because I've seen like Rossi and all those guys, like the Super GP, I think that's what it's called. MotoGP, yes, thank you. MotoGP, just watching like YouTube videos, but some of those guys are like on the side of their bike, like full body off the side, like on the ground.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about? Like that?
Yeah, so if you ever see, if you go back 20 years ago, the guys weren't like, I don't know how to describe it, but like rolling off the side of the bike. They weren't doing that as much, and more like leaning your knee and your upper body off and dragging a knee. And now like guys are basically climbing down the side of the bike.
Okay, yeah.
So the goal is to keep the bike as upright as possible to keep the tires from losing grip, right?
Yeah.
So they're still getting like MotoGP. They're getting like 60-degree lean angle out of the bikes, and dragging like knees, elbows, shoulders sometimes through the corners while they're doing it.
Like to me, I can't imagine doing that, because I'll drive my Miata and stuff on the track, and like I'll go karting and stuff, but like just fathoming the fact that your body's on the ground going over 100 kilometers an hour.
What's the sensation like of dragging your knee while going around a corner that low to the ground, going as fast as you are,
and your head's like right here?
Like, how would you describe that to somebody that's seen motorcycle racing but never been on a motorcycle? What could you compare it to even?
You just have to try it. It's addictive. It's addictive. It's ridiculous. Like every time you go, I didn't ride on the track for a few years, so I hadn't like dragged a knee, as they say, around the track. And when I went out, it was a little like took a few laps before I was getting comfortable enough to get the bike leaned over that much. And like as soon as the knee puck hits the ground, like yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You kind of like know you're going fast at that point, especially when you're not trying to stick your knee out extra to just so you get the feeling.
Yeah. I feel like that's comparable to like slip angle on a car, because you've done a little bit of car racing yourself, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So is that comparable to slip angle, getting a little bit sideways through a corner, like not drifting, but just kind of like getting the car to rotate? Is that?
It's different.
A little bit. Okay.
It's different. It's the same sort of like, I don't know how to describe it, like how to contrast the two, but yeah, like when you're in a car and you're at the limit, basically you're going fast, and like you said, the slip angle as you're going through the corner, it's like you nailed it, and that's basically as fast as you can go through that corner. It's kind of the same thing, like you're using your knee as a gauge mostly as a gauge for how far you've leaned over, how much you have left to go, right? You can use it a little bit too. Like we've all had an instance where you're going through a corner and the front end goes a little bit, and you can push down on your knee to try to
bring it back up.
put the tire back
up,
like
it's
put the
wild.
bike back on the tire and keep going.
Yeah, because you don't have like a lot of like grip as soon as you get to whatever 60, 50 degrees of
Yeah,
angle,
we're not
right?
leaning that far, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're surprised. So these are what's on this bike behind us is a full race slick. So there's no treads cut in it or anything, right? There's no void area, and when the rubber that they use, the compounds and the chemicals, which are probably terrible for everything, that go into these tires, when they get hot. So that's the other thing. We run a tire warmer on it before we go out to get them nice and sticky. And you can tell the difference. Right now, they're not sticky. You put tire warmers on for 30, 40 minutes and take them off, and like your fingers will stick to them because of all
that's weird.
like components that are coming out of it. So when you do have it leaned over, it's especially the slick tires, they're really grippy on the edge. And that's the goal. Like you can feel when you're right at the limit of traction leaned over with a slick tire. Like if anybody's familiar with doing a track day or racing or whatever on a DOT tire, and you lean it over as far as you can, sometimes it just lets go. There's no warning. With the slick tires, it's like you can feel it like slide and grip, and it's not the greatest feeling, but it gives a little confidence that there's extra, like it's fighting for traction the whole time. It's not just gonna
let go.
Just let go generally.
When you're racing a bike, how do you even start with that? Because in my mind, I wouldn't want to just pick up like a 400cc bike and start ripping around Calabogie. It's a pretty dangerous track, at least in my mind, especially in a car, right?
So there's a few ways. I started riding at the track like in 2005, and it was sort of like that. Like you just show up with a motorcycle and okay, go kind of thing. And so now there's a few different ways. And so when people ask me that question, traditionally what I would have said is down at Shannonville, which is near Belleville, there's a motorcycle, they call it the fast school. Okay. So they have different levels from like entry level, never really ridden a bike before, all the way up to like, I want to start racing. And they have levels to graduate through, and you kind of start with they do a little bit of an assessment and then kind of fit you into where your current skill level is and level you up. And it's the way that I try to explain this to people too, if you ride a motorcycle on the road, and you've ridden whatever, let's say for a couple years or whatever, and you go do a track day with an instructor and just do a lead follow, at the end of that track day, it's like the confidence that you gain in being able to accelerate, brake, and turn and lean your bike on the road is like another entire season of riding from one track day. Like the amount of information that your brain processes, like it melts at the end of the first day. It's crazy. And then doing something like the fast school is like doing a season of track days in one day.
Okay.
So it's again like the next level up of skill and confidence in your bike, your ability. And the great thing with the fast school is like you can show up just dressed in street clothes. You can rent everything from them, from helmet, boots, the bike, everything. Or you can bring your own. Mm-hmm. And then this last year we started getting involved with Tony Sharpless, who's a Canadian Hall of Fame motorcycle racer. She started a program called the Supersonic Road Race School, and she goes around. She comes near Ottawa here to Smiths Falls at the Lombardy Karting Club,
cool. Okay.
as well as Brecken Raceway, and she was doing a few at Mosport as well, not on the big track, but she has a bunch of little bikes, and it's geared from everybody starting at 5 years old up to, you got grandparents and great grandparents coming out to do her course. And the same thing, you can show up in street clothes, and they have everything for you. They have a bike ready, and all of the gear, all the proper protective leather, boot, glove, helmet, everything. And she has a little fleet of different bikes from like small dirt bikes with road race tires on them, like a TTR 110, and then they have the Ovale, which is sort of like an oversized pit bike, but they're made in Italy, and they have like the best components on them. It really is like a kid's full-on road race bike. And her goal is to build the series in Canada. So if you look at anywhere else that has motorcycle racing, the US, Europe, like it's crazy. Everyone is bike crazy, and they hit huge turnouts at every single like level, and they have all kinds of kids programs to get kids into racing. And we have that in Canada for dirt bikes, but not for road racing. Okay. So her goal is to kind of get more kids involved at the younger age and build them up so that so Canada has some really good road racers coming through the pipes. And her school is great. She's a fantastic instructor, and she gets a lot of pros to come out to instruct too. Cool. So if somebody's looking to get started, probably the least intimidating school would be the Tony Sharpless's Supersonic Road Race School. Okay. And they can, like, you can not have ridden a bike before and show up and go do it, and by the end of the day you can be doing circle drills, dragging your knees both sides kind of thing. My wife took it. She's dragging knees all over the place. She's ridden bikes before, and she did the fast school, but she hadn't put a knee down before. Okay. One day at Tony's school, she's dragging knees, and that was it. She's like, oh, we had an endurance race at the end of the season. So we teamed up for that, and she had a blast. So she's going to continue next year to do that too.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was awesome.
So that's comparable to karting in a way. Like it's on a smaller scale, probably easier budget too, right? If you want to get to like competitive racing, but without, needing a truck and trailer and some crazy, stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. They have so for the mini bike series that she was putting on too, as well as the road race school, she had a mini bike series. Okay. And they had there was kids that were showing up with their own bikes and with their own support, their parents or whoever that are supporting them. But she had a small fleet of bikes too that were arrive and ride. You could rent. You could show up with all your own gear or whatever and rent the bike from them to do the series.
And that was at Lombardy. That goes to like go-kart tracks, right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So that's on the karting track, and it's you can get up. I'm not sure exactly how fast we're going, but similar to the kart. So at some points on the track, 70 kilometers an hour, maybe a little bigger than that. But unlike dirt biking, there's nothing really to hit if you fall. You go for a tumble and a slide, and you get back up and. There's a lot of parents that are okay putting their kids in motocross and stuff, which is great too, but you get out of shape in the whoops or something, and you're hitting the face of the next whoop or the next jump or something like that, and you stop dead. That's where you're going to break bones. At least in road racing, you're covered in leather, you got good boots, gloves, helmet on, and if you end up tipping it over, you're generally just going to go for a slide and get back up.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was thinking about, is it less hurt, or does it hurt less to fall at faster speeds than it does at slower speeds, because you slide when you go faster?
You just slide further.
Okay, good.
The faster you're going, you slide further, as long as you're not tumbling. Even then, I mean, they teach you. Some of the places anyway would teach you like how to fall. So if you're gonna hit the ground and even if you don't know you're gonna tumble, but you kind of bring your arms in close, your like fist to your armpits kind of thing, and bring your legs in or cross them or whatever, just so your limbs aren't flailing around, because that's when you start breaking wrists and collarbones, stuff like that. But,
because if you fall, you have no other protection other than, I guess, your leathers, your helmet, and your gloves with your like knuckle buster things on, right?
Yeah, there's a few airbags too now. So a lot of
around
racers,
the helmet, or
inside the suit. So there's a few different brands. So we sell Alpenstars, and Alpenstars just came out with their new Tech Air as their branding for their airbag. And there's accelerometers in it and stuff, so it knows you charge it up and it's good for the day kind of thing, and you go out and you ride the track, and it knows when you're falling. It knows the difference between the G-forces and the
or something. Like, would it go off in a speed wobble?
No.
No. So it depends on like your.
It knows what's happening.
Interesting.
It's
okay.
it's really good, and you know, I've seen enough now. I didn't really, let's say, trust that style. When they've first started to become popular, they had ones with a tether on them. Not Alpenstars. Some other ones had a tether on them, and as soon as you're ejected off your bike, the tether would pull and the bag would go off. This has evolved, and most of the brands now are they're just battery operated with accelerometers and stuff in them, and GPS, even some of them, so they know where you are, how fast you're going, all the different pitches and angles and everything going on, and it'll pop a charge that inflates the suit. And so before, it was sort of just like around your collarbone and neck and back and chest. Now Alpenstars has one that goes down, basically down your thighs, over your hips, down your legs and stuff too. So you get a lot of protection from that.
Okay, interesting.
Is that something you could replace the airbags on without replacing the whole suit, or is it kind of like once it goes off, like an airbag in a car, like once it goes off, that's it? You need everything. Yeah,
good question. So they the suit is independent of the vest that goes inside of it. So the suit has that are made. You need a suit that's made for the airbags, and they essentially just have stretch panels everywhere.
Okay.
So when it goes off, you look like the Michelin Man.
Nice.
And then you take it off and deflate everything, and then you would need to get the suit recharged. Okay. Some of them, depending on the brand, you have to send them away to get recharged. Some of them are good for two uses. Okay. Let's call it, before you have to send it away. And some of them you can just, like, they run on CO2 cartridges, so some of them you can just replace the CO2 cartridge in the pits, essentially, and be good to go again.
Okay. So would that be something you would use like only for racing? But I mean, like, it seems like it has obviously practical use, especially in friggin' Ottawa where no one knows how to drive.
Yeah.
Yes. The different companies make different models or some crossover models that are good for road and track. Some are good for just road. The Alpenstars one that's good for both. I think you have to tell it. Could be wrong, because I know one of them has a GPS in it, and they keep adding features and stuff over the years, so it's whatever. But so on the road, generally there's more things to hit. We're at the track.
More people to hit you.
Yeah, you're going to hit something. So at the track, everyone's going in the same direction. Mm-hmm. And maybe someone will hit you from behind or something like that if you're crashing. But generally, you're not going to stop dead. You're not hitting the side of a bus. You're not hitting a street post or a curb or a guardrail. You know what I mean?
You have a lot of runoff on the side of the track.
Generally,
or something.
That's why I think our driver's license tests are way too easy around here.
Oh, like 100%.
Like, anyone that says racing on the track is dangerous, obviously it's dangerous, but it's everybody doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So your expectations are always like, we're all going to make this turn as fast as we can. No one's doing 5 miles an hour in this lane and somebody's doing 100 in the other.
Yeah. Nobody's pulling out from a side street.
Exactly.
Yeah,
seriously. Exactly.
Well,
everyone can see that there's a red
10
light,
cars.
not just going through it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Speaking of safety, have you ever had any like accidents?
Yeah. I've had a few, unfortunately.
So like,
for the most part, it's like I said, you go for a slide. Generally, you like the worst thing that happens is the bike gets hurt and you need to replace parts on it, and your suit gets scuffed up or that kind of thing. That's generally what happens. I've had a couple that have been a little bit more than that, but so the one that I had last year. So let's go back 2 years ago when I started racing the lightweight class. I didn't know what to expect. The first race we went out, I know Calabogie track fairly well from racing Miatas and stuff there. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I ended up getting second place in the first race, and I was like right behind the leader when we crossed the line. It was kind of unexpected, but awesome. And then we went to Mosport, and I had a podium at Mosport too, which is sweet. I led most of the race, and I actually got passed by another guy who's now turned pro in the S's just before on the last lap. He passed me, kind of bumped his way by in turn 8, which is a little bit terrifying, but
yeah, that sounds very terrifying. Like, because your legs would get squished, would they not? Like, wouldn't you feel like the bump on your leg?
It was just a little bump in the shoulder kind of thing on the way by. He was
hit
going
the
by
kill
me, and I
switch
went
or
to turn in, and he had the speed, he had the.
Okay,
but there's no mirrors on them, you can't see.
Right.
So.
Shit! Yeah, there are.
You
In my head,
don't
I
want to
just
know what's
picture-
behind you. No, you don't look
Yeah,
behind you.
yeah, that's fair.
Otherwise, you'd always be
Shoulder checking.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as soon as you turn your head, now you've gone another couple hundred meters and whatever, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Especially at Mosport, which is fast.
Yeah, that's I don't understand how people ride at Calabogie and Mosport. Because the elevation changes for one, the speed and the amount of blind corners. Like,
Yeah.
And plus there's bears and
There's
deers and
bears.
gophers at Calabogie. It's happened. There's videos of people hitting bears and them
Yeah.
flying into the woods and stuff.
I'll
bring it up later on.
There
it's
was
ridiculous.
I don't remember what it was on the track last year. Some animal.
There was a
Like a
gopher a
woodchuck
couple
or
times.
gopher, yeah.
There's a little family that hangs out at like corner 12, I think, and they're just like watch cars and bikes go by.
Yeah.
I've seen or something. It's weird.
But like if you're coming on, so it was on this back straight. So you're coming through turn 4, and then you see somebody waving a debris flag. You know it's probably an animal that's in the track.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But yeah, so I was doing really well in 2020, and they because of COVID they cut the season short. But I was leading the series by 1 point, and then they decided that because they cut the series short, they weren't going to give out championships or anything like that. So when we came back in 2021. Series started at Calabogie, and I went out and ended up third in the first race. So we had double headers at all these rounds. The second race I went out, and I was in the lead pack. There's 4 of us in the lead pack, all kind of dicing it out. And I made a mistake. I tried to pass everybody in one corner, which meant I went wide on the outside of turn 5 into the grass.
Okay,
So at the end of the long straightaway there, I tried to outbrake everybody, and one guy was trying to do the same thing, came across in front of me, and I avoided hitting him, but I ended up going wide into the grass.
Okay.
And got it slowed down, came back on the track, and kind of had the red mist going because a bunch of people had passed me. So I was like, the next lap, I was just like head down, just trying to take somebody at every corner to catch back up to the leaders. And I was passing the guy, I believe he's in 4th.
Okay.
I was just lining up to pass him in turn. I was planning to pass him somewhere between 12 and 14. And
Okay.
I don't know if you know the track.
Yeah, like going
Well, I know
that,
you know
that
the track.
hairpin, they're going back up the hill.
Yeah, so right at 12, the left-hander is it's going to go back up the hill, right? He crashed in front of me,
Okay.
and his bike's spinning and he's tumbling and sort of taking up the entire track.
Oh, fuck.
And
Because
I'm trying to figure
it's
out
probably
where to,
pretty unpredictable, where the bike goes and
Yeah,
where the
like-
person goes.
Yep, especially with he's tumbling. He's got his arms tucked like this, and he's tumbling. So I'm like, so I go to the right, and then he tumbles in front of me
Oh,
because his
shit.
bike was over on the left somewhere. So I'm like, shit. So I go around him, and I was about to run him over, and I grabbed all of the front brake, and I went up on the front wheel, and then his bike came and plowed into
Holy
the side of
fuck.
my bike.
Yeah.
And which like threw me down, like sumoed me down onto the ground, and I hit my shoulder on the left side and my hip on the left side really hard on the ground, and I ended up breaking my collarbone. There's 2 chunks of collarbone missing.
Okay.
And I blew the vein in my
What?
leg by my hip.
How do you blow a vein? Is
What?
That, I didn't even know that was
It
possible.
ruptured from the impact,
It
and
just
then
got, like squished and then like
yeah.
we're like, fuck.
So that one was, I didn't realize that had happened. It hit pretty hard. So there's also like, you have a little bit of hip protection built in, right? So you have bursa sacs on your joints to help protect them from bumps and stuff. So you've heard of bursitis, right? Like people get bursitis from playing golf, and like your joint hurts, right?
Like tennis elbow, is that?
Yeah, similar to
Okay.
similar, right?
That's why I
So
don't
you
play
have
golf.
them on your hips too, and I blew that one up on my left hip in that accident, but I also the vein in my leg ruptured right there too in the hip.
Isn't that like a main vein that runs up your leg?
It's not the artery.
Oh,
It's-
okay.
It's the vein. So it's under,
failed
It's under
biology.
less pressure, but it's still there's still a lot of blood flow that goes through there.
Okay.
So I got, the safety crew at Cal Bogey is amazing.
Yeah.
They were there. So the funny thing is I had a 360 cam on the back of this.
thing.
The funny thing about this accident
They almost died, but
I was screaming in pain, but there was a 360 cam on the back of my bike, and when I got in the accident, my boot hit the camera and it went up in the air. So I essentially have like the camera's flipping around, but it knows where the horizon is.
yeah.
So I have like drone footage of the whole thing off of my own camera. It's ridiculous.
I kind of want to see it, but
And can we splice it in? So I have that, and then on the timer, I think it was like 36 seconds from the time I hit the ground and stopped rolling. The other motorcyclist the other racer that I didn't end up ran over to check on me. He was fine.
Shit.
And the ambulance showed up. It was like 36 seconds for them to get to where
That's
the accident
quick.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. And they were like immediate and cart me off to the medical building, and then I ended up going to the hospital in Arnprior. And when I got to the whole way to the hospital, I'm like, my leg is swelling. Like I got a good hematoma coming.
Fuck.
And when I got out of the van to go into the emerge there, it felt like that's when it like really ruptured. Like it was, I guess, damaged. But as soon as I like flexed my muscle, it literally. I've never been shot, but I imagine that's exactly what it feels like. It felt like I got hit with a projectile in the leg, sharp pain, and then just heat, and I couldn't put any weight on my leg, and I had to get a wheelchair, and I was, screaming and cursing as I'm going into emergency, which I found it helps you get in, like they triage
Faster.
you way ahead of everybody else.
I have a cold. Yelling. My sinuses.
So yeah, that was not
Oh,
fun.
God.
But they were really good there. They transferred me to Ottawa. They ended up doing it just because they have more equipment to look at
by
what's
helicopter
going
or
on.
car?
By
Or
ambulance because I was stable. So because of the amount of swelling, how fast it was swelling up, they needed to monitor like blood pressure and stuff, because if your blood pressure drops, they're gonna have to put you in surgery and repair it. But it was managing.
Okay.
It was managing, but like my whole pelvis and everything was just full of blood. It was disgusting. I
Well,
couldn't
it stayed
like wear
inside you, though.
pants.
Yeah.
What's that? Yeah, it stayed
It stayed
inside me.
so it's where it belongs.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and I was
Internal
purple
bleed.
from like my knee to my belly button
Yeah.
and everything in between. And
Oh no.
and
The giblets.
I couldn't wear pants or like pull my pants over my legs because it was so swollen for a while.
dude.
So I'd like
How do you go through an accident like that and be like, yeah, you know what, I'm gonna get healed up and jump back on the bike and do the same shit? Like, how do you?
I don't know.
That's fair, but I mean,
Try dragging a knee and then it's addictive. I'm
yeah.
telling you.
Okay.
You're like, well, I didn't die. Like, it's, what is it?
Yeah,
you know what? If I was
"Did you
wearing,
die" meme.
they didn't have them at the time, but I can almost guarantee if I had the Alpenstars Tech Air suit that covers there, I probably still would have broken the collarbone just because of the impact. It wasn't like a lot of people, if you fall off of anything or like a bicycle or whatever, you put your hand out and it's that sort of shock from your palm hitting the ground that can snap your collarbone. Mm-hmm. I had my arm tucked, and my old suit, you can see like where my shoulder hit, and it was just the impact of the shoulder hitting the ground that popped the collarbone out.
How did your shoulder not? Did your shoulder get like dislocated and stuff? No, it just.
I
'Cause, like,
get pretty lucky with bone injuries.
Yeah, no kidding.
Like I broke both my collarbones. One was not motorcycle related. It was a hockey puck, but yeah.
Weird.
But
I've never broken a bone. What does that feel like?
It hurts more not to break the bone.
Really?
It's silly.
Okay.
Like, you don't have nerves in your bones, right?
Right.
So it feels weird. Like I could tell right away because my
It's all like
arms
a
moving.
loose
You can
and-
like feel stuff like.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's gross.
Claire,
it
the
didn't-
producer, is like squirming right
didn't-
now. I don't like it.
It didn't hurt. Like the break didn't hurt. The impact hurt.
Okay.
But I've had other. Like, I had an accident on the road on the motorcycle. Somebody pulled out in front of me.
Of course.
And as usual.
Yeah.
And I ended up tearing like all my tendons and ligaments in my leg as
Oh,
I
no.
like dragged on the road. No broken bones, but that took longer to heal, and like I still have pain in my ankle, and that was like 10 years ago now.
Yeah, those all the soft tissues that are just
Yeah.
holding everything together.
And it's
That's,
honestly like, I don't know, if I would have broken my ankle instead of tearing everything, it probably would have healed
I
up
hate
quicker.
talking about things getting broken for bodies.
Yeah.
It just doesn't sit well. But
Well,
that's insane.
honestly-
What is attached to me? That's like sorry, it's a Velcro piece.
It makes me, like, it does make me reconsider doing car racing instead
Okay.
of bike racing. You know, thing is, in Canada, it's like, if you wreck the car, it's very expensive. If you bike, well, especially the little bikes, are cheaper than a car, and healthcare is essentially free.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
your
I
body
guess.
heals itself. It just needs time, and
Yeah.
you can get all the MRIs and stuff that you need.
I guess so.
And,
But that's insane. I don't like you have a family. Does your family like be like, okay, you're doing some really crazy shit on a bike? Are you ever gonna like
It's
slow
not
down at all?
crazy,
You
though.
just
It's not
continue.
crazy.
It's not crazy. Okay, to me it's crazy, but I just don't. I'm not a bike guy. I
Yeah.
prefer cars over
That's-
bikes.
it is in the
Something
back
about
of
a
my head
windshield
a
and seats and
Yeah,
a
and-
seat
And a
belt.
cage, and
Yeah, and
And
a
not being
cage.
ejected out of my car if I get into an accident.
Yeah,
it's just dollar signs.
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Every little extra piece is a couple dollars, but like it's wild that people throw themselves around on a bicycle, on a
Yeah.
bicycle too.
A
but
bicycle with a
on a
motor.
motorcycle.
BMX,
Yeah, and like you're going up to 200 kilometers an hour. By the time you hit corner 5 at Calabogie, like the back straight, you're probably getting upwards to 200. Maybe
These are a
more,
little bit
maybe
less than that.
Okay.
Like they're 170s, maybe 180. I don't know. I'm not really looking
So like
at the speedometer,
Miata territory.
Yeah.
That's
it's-
way more faster than a Miata.
It's not actually. The lightweight bikes are pretty comparable. So because I did the Spec Miata racing at Calabogie, it kind of helped the lines for this lightweight bike too, because you don't have a lot of power to make up.
Right.
You need corner speed on these bikes, same as a Miata. Like, you race a Miata.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to figure out how to keep momentum up, because you don't have the ability to sort of to square a corner off and use the horsepower to rock it down
So
the
you're really
straightaway.
you're continuing a big curve essentially to
So it is a little bit different, but the lap times are not that much quicker than a Miata.
Okay. What are you running on? Like with the bikes at Calabogie, I've seen some stupid videos leading up to this podcast of people going like 220s, 218s on bikes,
Yeah.
which are ridiculously fast. Is that these or is that something else?
So we're in the 220s now on these bikes, like
Oh.
mid to high 220s
Okay.
on these bikes. Most of the faster guys.
Which is fast.
Which is, yeah, but a Miata, I mean, you can do just under 230 in a Miata. You can do like 28s, 29s in a Miata with the right equipment.
But you have so much more grip in a car because you
Yep.
have 4 tires,
And
right?
Less weight.
Less,
Cars have more grip than
Yeah.
than
Oh, yeah.
bikes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah, especially cornering speed. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
bikes are like,
Yeah, but look at how much rubber, like the contact patch on a bike is probably like what, 2 inches wide?
The rear tire on the lightweight bike is less than the palm of your hand. So on a super bike, it's about the size of the palm of your hand.
Okay.
On these bikes, a little bit less, and then the front's probably like the
Like a
size of a
toonie?
toonie, maybe. Yeah.
That's insane.
fucking hell.
And then yeah, on a car you have like the width of the
Yeah.
tire.
Yeah.
And then
And you can
if
use-
your
I
never
alignment's
thought
all
of it
set up
that way.
proper.
Yeah.
I just thought, because like car, you have to stop and turn wheel. Bike, you just and you
But
go.
with a car, as soon as you start to kind of like slip angle, as soon as you start to get the rear end to kind of loosen
Rotate,
up,
yeah.
rotate, like you can throttle out or whatever to get back into line and all that wonderful stuff. But with a bike, I'm assuming people aren't doing the crazy shit when they fucking slam their rear brake to like get the bike to slide, or do people do that?
Oh yeah, the guys
Is
that know
that
what they're doing. Like I don't.
Okay.
I'm not that good. But there's definitely guys that are backing it in, as they call it, where they're getting on the brake and so hard that, you know, the back tire's kind of coming off the ground or skimming along the ground, because the bike turns by leaning. Right. So when you're turning a bike, you need to get it. It wants it, because of everything going on. It wants to just keep going in a straight line. If you fell off the bike, it would right itself and just keep going until it hits something.
Okay.
So you need to like get it out of shape to turn it. And the guys that are like at the top level get the friggin' things like completely out of shape, sideways, crooked, 3 different axes sliding into the corner, and then just, you know, get back on the gas and hammer out of the corner. I'm not at that level, so.
Yeah,
But,
it's like watching some videos. Like they get right up on top of the tank, like up towards the front, I guess, to get the rear end to lift up or something. Like what is?
It depends on.
I don't
I'm
know.
not sure
Okay.
what exactly you saw, but
Get up on the tank.
Like they're like when they hit the brakes, they're like pretty much standing up
Like,
on
you
the
mean, like,
bike
they
and then
stand
moving
up?
forward, like putting the weight forward. I guess I don't know.
It depends
Weight
what.
transfer or something.
Yeah, there's all kinds of.
You can tell we know
So,
a lot
like-
about bikes.
If you're watching like MotoGP guys, those bikes are so full of electronics and all kinds of stuff. Like they throw their weight around in all kinds of weird and wonderful ways. That's exciting to watch. But I don't think without all of those electronic things going on that it's doable with the equipment that we have.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to try it because
Yeah, you only have 2 collarbones.
yeah,
Speaking of
this one's full steel now. So
speaking of electronics, how does Ducati get away with charging like 50 grand, or Harley charging like 50 grand for a bike?
people pay it.
I don't know. Yeah, but
But how
the
do you
amount of metal
justify
is
it?
so much less.
Like I don't have a
Car.
touch screen in the bike. So
Yeah,
like
I don't know.
how?
I don't know.
So 2 speakers on the back that all Harley drivers like
It's
blast.
it's a tube chassis, an engine, 2 wheels.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, part of it is, so for the Ducati, they're always pushing the limit of performance. So those bikes, like the super bikes, the Panigales, the really, really fancy ones, where they're going to be like full of titanium and carbon fiber and like basically the best of whatever their engineers can develop. And then they make them in small production runs, and they make them limited edition, and people will pay that kind of money for them. Like there's a KTM that's like $60,000-$70,000
What?
because
Why?
it's a track bike. They put all like the MotoGP style of aero and whatever
Bits
on it.
and bobs on it.
Yeah, and then they made, I don't even know, I don't remember,
Like a
200 of them
homologation
or something like
version
that.
or something? I
It's
don't
just a special street. Like half of them
Okay.
are just going to end up in people's collections or something like that. Like,
Okay.
For the most part, you know, whatever. There's going to be
Interesting.
the odd person that actually takes it out and runs it hard, and most people may take it to a track day or 2 kind of thing.
Okay.
And I think the majority just end up in someone's collection, which whatever.
Yeah.
When you're spending that kind of money, like I wouldn't want to end up crashing it or something. You know what I mean?
That's crazy. So you mentioned you've done like spec Miata stuff at Calabodi, and you've ridden this at Calabodi. In terms of like what's more fun, what is more fun?
What is more fun?
What do you prefer,
I-
like bike racing or
More funner.
Funner, yeah.
Funner. They're different. I enjoy both of them.
Okay.
I'm more comfortable, let's say, in a car. I'm more comfortable pushing the limit in a car.
Okay.
So because of that extra protection, like you said, I have a mortgage and a 2-year-old and a wife and whatever, right? So and a business to run that doesn't run itself. So I am conscious of those things when I'm on the bike.
Okay.
Which means that I've caught myself, like I could make that pass, or I could stuff it into that corner a little bit quicker, and because I'm watching other people, they're gaining at Mosport. I learned this year, you don't use the brakes in turn 5 at Mosport on these bikes. Turn 4 comes downhill, and then 5 is Moss, as you're up.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Sort of uphill, and then 5 AB top of the hill, and then onto the back straight through 6. And I was waiting till the last second, just grabbing a little bit of brake and turning it in, and people are going by me like I'm standing still, and so we were talking to some guys after the qualifying and stuff, and no, the fast guys are not using brakes anywhere.
That's
at
sketchy.
Mosport.
Like driving in a car, because I guess it's weight dependent too, because you have a lot more momentum in a car.
Speed and weight.
Yeah.
So
That's
when you're hitting, so they're using the fact that if you've ever walked the track at Mosport, which is pretty, it's a long
we've
way
done
around.
We've done it a couple times. Like at nighttime, we'll grab like a couple of beers and
Yeah.
we'll
We're
go
not
for like
supposed to, but we do.
go for a little track walk.
Yeah.
And we've done
the
the walk a
elevation
couple
when
times.
you're walking is completely different.
Oh
than when
yeah,
you're
yeah.
riding.
You don't
Riding,
realize
yeah.
how steep it is,
Yeah,
It's
so
cool.
that it's pretty steep up to 5.
especially when you're out of shape like me.
Yeah, well, same. So it's pretty steep up to 5, and guys are just basically like, we're coming on these little bikes. We're coming through their 175-ish kilometers an hour. It's actually faster than it's probably the fastest spot on the track, maybe equal to the end of the straightaway before you turn into 8, which you also don't brake for. Which I'm okay not braking
What
for
the
that.
fuck?
That's you're not going fast enough. And turn 8 is a pretty good sweeper. to
Yeah,
the right.
yeah, okay.
So,
That's fair.
yeah, it's, and even when you're, so drafting on the little bikes is a thing, especially at Mosport, just because they don't have the power to get out of their own way sometimes. So pulling a draft, you get 5 to 8 kilometers an hour on somebody, and you can really, that's how I got past a couple years
That's
ago there
wild.
on the last lap. But yeah, it's a thing. So we're going about the same mid 170s through 4 and then up to 5, and the fast guys are just banging 2 gears, letting the back slide out a little bit, and then
That's
back on
cool.
the gas, and I couldn't get my brain around that. And so Harvey that runs the other identical bike to this, he's like, we're talking about it, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna try it. And he went out and took him a couple laps to work up to it, and now he's fine, not braking for that corner.
That's cool.
And
cool.
and like he's right at the front of that group. So they split it this year into amateur and pro. They're running everybody together before. They're trying to use the amateur as like the feeder series for younger kids going up, but they wanted to fill the grid with, it's a super fun series, even for guys that are pros and stuff. Like, it's super fun. So in 2021, Harvey won the amateur lightweight championship on his Moto Mike Kawasaki, which meant that for lightweight anyway, he had to turn pro, and then thankfully they opened up the pro side of it. So pro-am, so amateurs can also enter it, but the pros can't enter the amateur only series. And he finished 3rd overall this year in the pro-am series. So he's faster than I am.
That's wild.
But we had a lot of fun on these things.
They look like a ton of fun. I don't think I would ever do it personally.
You should do a track to him.
I'd kill myself.
No,
Yeah,
you wouldn't.
that's-
People
No, I
say
wouldn't.
that. No, you wouldn't.
No?
No, you wouldn't.
Can I ride your bike?
Yeah.
Can I- yeah?
Yep.
Okay.
Right here, right now.
But yeah, do some burnouts. That's probably what I'd do.
That's fine. No,
that's-
people
it's
people
cool.
say that they, but it's not like, it doesn't. It's pretty safe, and with the right like instruction and the right, even just doing a lead follow, like you get into the groove and you're like, okay, no, we can do this.
I think some people have the natural ability to like race and learn from racing. I don't have that. Like, I know Keishan does, but like, whether it's sim racing, Gran Turismo, racing the go-karts, the one time I did Calabogie in my own car, my brain does not like like when someone's like, oh, when you're coming up to this corner, instead of slowing down here, slow down up here. I'm like a bull in a china shop. Like, I'm just like all gas and then all brakes and then all gas, all brakes. Like, I don't have the finesse.
It takes time, and you gotta like rewire your brain on like an internal level. You gotta break through it. It's very much like barrier associated. Like your buddy Harvey.
Yep.
Like not turning into Moss Corner. You have to like every little while you just push the envelope just a tiny bit. You don't go full 10/10, and that's when bad things happen.
Yeah, I have no control.
But I
it's
find a
fair.
lot of people like they get on a bike and because they're like that in a car or whatever. But you're like self-preservation comes into play
I guess,
on a
yeah.
bike a little bit
Okay.
more for most people.
Well, because there's less safety barriers, so that makes sense.
Yeah, so you get the more sensation of speed. You're in the wind. You get more like something like I'm gonna hit. You see things that you didn't maybe in the car or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a bump there and there's a rock there and
Yeah,
there's
okay.
whatever that you're fine, but your brain goes I might fall off or something bad might happen, right? And so I find a lot of people don't, even though they're going fast on the straights and they're doing this, that, and the other thing, they're not actually doing like a super fast lap time to begin with because they're slowing down a lot. They're doing this
Right.
and that, and it's a lot of like self-preservation, and then you do end up just working your way up to getting the faster corner speeds and stuff.
Okay. Weird. I don't get it. Maybe I'll try it next year if I
Okay, do Tony's
Just wanna-
school. Do the mini bike school.
It
It's
looks like
amazing.
fun.
It's so much fun. Even
Yeah.
just to go out for a day, it's not that expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Even just to go out and putter around on the bikes with somebody that's showing you and pushing you a little bit to get out of your comfort zone and like you'd be surprised how quickly you progress through something like that.
Okay. Cool. Maybe I will. Maybe you should too.
It's so much fun.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'll think about it. But
That'd be cool. I had so many things I wanted to like ask you because bikes are just a different like world to me.
Yeah.
well, we might have to make it into a part 2.
Maybe
Yeah.
maybe
We
honestly
might have to
yeah,
revisit
because
this
your
podcast.
wife
I know, I
also
keep
started to do a little bit of racing and riding as well, right?
Yeah.
So like that's pretty sick. Like it's
yeah.
it's not just like a male dominant thing. Like there's a lot of
there's
women
a
who are
lot
into
of
it too.
women. There's
Yeah.
a lot of women, and it's getting better too because it's kind of like there used to be more,
Okay.
and then in Canada the racing scene started to die out a little bit. It's been getting a lot better. Like I was saying, the Soar series gets a ton of people coming out. There's a vintage series 2 VRRA, and they at
that's cool.
Calabogie they have like the biggest turnouts. And they have classes for the lightweight bikes, and they have classes for everything from like 30s bikes up to I forget what their newest period is, where it ends like 98, something like that.
Okay. Those are like cafe racer kind of stuff, or is that?
Yeah, but and sport bikes
And
and
so-
like two-stroke GP bikes, and they have sidecars, and they have like modern F1 sidecars, and they have vintage sidecars.
So like sidecars being people are sitting in the sidecars.
Yeah,
Doing
they don't really sit. Yeah, so it's
Or
good. They
they're-
call them the monkey, and they hang off and.
oh yeah.
Yeah,
That's
it's just
sick.
crazy. So
That's cool.
my wife's good friend is a monkey on
Okay.
one of the
It'd be
sidecars.
so much fun to go watch. I've seen like pictures and
And-
stuff, but I've never seen it in person.
At the VRRA, at the lunch break, they usually do charity laps. So you can pay.
You could sit in the
You
thing.
can pay to be the monkey for a lap
Oh, I'm so down.
at lunch. Yeah.
Oh, that should be
Yeah,
so much
that I'd
fun.
do.
That'd be
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, I'm totally down. How can people get involved with these organizations or these race days, or like as a volunteer? Like what's the approach that people can take?
Well, they're always looking for volunteers. That's one thing, even if it's just guiding people into parking and that kind of thing. Honestly, this 2022, the internet is a thing.
Yeah, that's fair.
So you can go on their various websites and contact any of the event organizers that they have listed for them, and just say I want to come out and volunteer. If you need somebody to pick up cones or put out bottle bags. So that's another thing is there's these bags that they have for safety, and it's like these giant, I don't even know how big they are, like 8x8 sacks that are full of old used water bottles
Okay.
that they put out so as a safety barrier between any of the hard objects that are like immovable pieces of fencing
Like
or
the Armco and
Armco
stuff
or
like
whatever,
that.
if it's in a place at like the end of a pit wall or something like that, right?
Right.
So they put these out just in case something happens and somebody slides out and hits it. They do a really good job of absorbing that impact, but you need people to go put them out and clean them up and take them off the track and that kind of thing. So I mean, that would be an entry level thing to come out, and then you get to watch cool racing. The other thing that you could do is sign up to be a marshal with Calabogie. They have a marshalling program.
Okay.
If you're in the Ottawa area, I'm sure it's the same at a lot of other tracks. And it's actually a lot of the marshalling. I'm not sure for the motorcycle days, but it's a whole other world. Marshalling. You log your hours, and eventually, once you have enough events under your belt, you can go do stuff like be a marshal at the F1 in Montreal and that kind of thing. But you need all of that marshalling experience before you can get to that point.
Get the best seat in the house doing that.
It's amazing. There's people from Calabogie that marshal at Calabogie regularly that now do the F1 because they've done enough stuff.
I've chatted with a couple of those guys.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yep.
Like, who knew that, like, people from a local track would be officiating some of the biggest races worldwide.
Like, they don't
it's
fly
insane.
those people in from wherever.
They're all local people.
Yeah, because they're affiliated with FIA, FIM.
Yeah,
That's
cool.
awesome.
So
So going back, like, what websites can people? How do
plug
people
your-
get
plug your
in
stuff.
contact with you? How do people get in contact with the organizations? Things like that.
So yeah, obviously I talk a lot about motorcycle stuff. So if anybody wants to chat or whatever, come learn about this or whatever. We're 17 Fitzgerald Road, Unit 101 in Nepean. There's West End, Ottawa. Motomike.ca. My email is info@motomike.ca, which is easy. The other organizations is you could look up the Fast School, which is part of Shenanville Motorsports Park. Tony Sharpless Supersonic Road Race School, probably .ca. I'm not sure exactly. I have to look it up. She's on Facebook and stuff too. Super easy to find and easy to talk to. You can email Tony and she'll reply right away, kind of thing. The VRA.ca for the vintage one. CSBK has a website, and in all of these websites there's ways to contact different people depending on what you're looking to do. You can download rule books and look how you can start getting involved with, if you want to race your own bike or you want to help out a team or help out the organization, that kind of thing.
Okay.
SOAR is another one too if you're west of Toronto or want to go west of Toronto. And I know there's other ones in the West Coast that I'm not familiar with, but those are the biggest ones around here. The tracks always post their schedules too. There's Pro 6 Cycle does all the track days at Calabogie.
Yeah. Okay.
So on their website they have their list, and those guys, they sell so many track days. They sell out. I think last year they put out their schedule in January and it sold out within a day or two.
That's amazing.
They added some after that, but it's like you need to be on your game when you're looking to book these things now. It's blowing up for motorcycle track days and stuff, so which is awesome.
That's sweet. And I guess if people want to chat with you about obviously buying parts, purchasing like race suits and all that, they can all go through you. You can special order things if needed.
Yeah,
or
we deal with the Arai, Alpenstars, HJC, a ton of other companies, and then obviously like Brembo and all kinds of other hard parts, Woodcraft Technologies and stuff. So just about anything that you need for.
There's also a lot of sick shirts and hats here that I'm
yeah
I've been like eyeing this whole.
We got a lot of clothing and apparel.
I'm seeing that Suzuki one and I'm really interested in
nice.
it.
Yeah, hats and stuff, and we have, in addition to what we have here, 12,000 SKUs in the back here, all the maintenance, oil, motul, everything. We can order just about anything else in, and it's generally a day or two to pull it in. So anything for sport bikes, dirt bikes, Harleys, pit bikes, just about anything.
Cool.
Anything.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah. I think after we wrap this up, I want to look through some of the sweaters.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, man.
Maybe we'll take this 400 out in the back and do some burnouts with it.
It's an old Tyre, so yeah, go to town.
Really? Okay. All right, well,
Don't tease them.
Maybe we'll do that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for coming out.
It's always awesome to chat with people who are just in a different world of motorsports, and just the automotive community is so tight knit. that it just made sense to get people involved in
Yeah,
different
100%.
aspects and ways.
Yeah, nice.
So yeah, thank you so much for
Thank you.
hosting us here,
Yeah.
and thank you everyone for listening in on us talk about stuff and
And things.
things.
Yeah.
Stuff and things.
Stuff and things.
Yeah. I'm one of the hosts, Keishan Sondergar. Please like, follow, and subscribe to Brandon's YouTube channel, which is also my YouTube channel. Follow us at the Flat Tire Podcast on Instagram, theflattire.com, flattirepodcast.com. Thank you to TGF Media for helping out with all the equipment with this.
Yeah, thank you to us.
Thank you to us for helping us. And yeah, that was episode 1. What do you think about that, Brandon? What was episode 1 like?
It was great. It's a little rusty, but it was great.
It
Yeah,
was good. It was
I
like
enjoyed
a typical Mazda Miata after a season of storage.
Yeah.
Or existing in general.
It took a little cranks to get going,
Yeah.
and then it ran fine. So it was
yeah,
great.
and maybe a blown main fuse because that's what happened to mine. Anyways, peace.
Bye.